What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the best Spark Sorceress build in Path of Exile 2 0.3 update. This is a build designed to take you through the hardest content with a single ability at its core. Everything revolves around Spark, which is a spell that fills the battlefield with dozens of projectiles that ricochet, bounce and zap their way through the enemies, until nothing is left standing. With this setup, the Spark is pushed to its absolute limit, and the result is a widescreen lightning storm that leaves no survivors. What makes the build special is how it combines the Spark with the Blood Mage archetype. Instead of worrying about the mana or juggling awkward resource management, every cast is paid for directly with the life. On paper, that might sound risky, but with the right passive tree choices, gear and the flask setup, it actually feels incredibly smooth. You are draining your HP constantly, but also replenishing it instantly through the regeneration and the natural sustain provided by the Blood Mage mechanics. This means that you can cast endlessly without running dry, and it creates a unique rhythm where your survival and the offense is intertwined. This build achieves a 100% critical strike chance for all the spells, which means that every spark projectile, every orb and every supportive proc is guaranteed to crit. And remember, if you want to track this build, look up the best items, the skill trees and power of building, then check my link in the description. And before we continue, thanks to U4GM. They are a pro website that provides POE2 services like cheap currency, then even to trade all types of quality items and gems and much more. They have also more than 20,000 positive comments on Trustpilot, and this website is really worth a try. So make sure to use my discount code KATE for extra 6% off. So let's take a look at the skill gems, and at the heart of this build is the Spark. This is the ability that does almost all the work. You'll want the Spark linked to the Pierce, rapid casting, prolonged duration and the pinpoint critical. This combination ensures that every Spark projectile will travel farther, last longer and hit harder. The Pierce allows them to shred through the packs of monsters without stopping. Then rapid casting speeds up your firing rate to fill the screen faster. Prolonged duration will ensure that Spark stays active longer to bounce more times, and pinpoint critical pushes the critical chance into overdrive by multiplying effectiveness of every single hit. Then supporting this is the Orb of Storms, which you socket in your second weapon set. This is linked with the Overabundance, Consider Casting and Arcane Surge. The Orb of Storms is more than just a utility skill. It acts as an additional source of damage, while also triggering the critical strikes and keeping your buffs active. Whenever you drop an orb into the pack, it chains and shocks enemies, while also recharging your Arcane Surge for increased damage and the cast speed. Then the third major offensive skill is the Power Siphon, linked with the cast on critical strike and the arc. This allows your Spark crit to trigger additional lightning spells for even more screen coverage. With the supports like the Boundless Energy, Energy Retention and the Life Tap, this setup sustains itself and turns every crit into a cascade of the extra spells. For debuffs and support, you run the Sigil of Power, which both empowers your damage and weakens the enemies inside its radius. The Sigil is linked with the Elemental Weakness, Prolonged Duration and the Heightened Curse effect, by turning it into a massive damage amplifier. You also bring Firestorm for the wide AoE destruction, paired with the Rapid Casting, Prolonged Duration and the Elemental Focus. And finally, the last important thing is the Frost Bomb, which is used as utility tool to reduce the enemy resistances, and it is also linked with the Potent Exposure, Remnant Potency and the Heightened Curse effect. Next up, the passive tree is specifically designed to maximize the consistent critical strike potential, while also sustaining life cost of the blood magic. You begin prioritizing nodes that grant critical strike chance, critical strike multiplier and the spell damage. Notables like the raw destruction, practice signs, critical overload and the sudden escalation, evocated efficiency and the critical exploit are all part of the early build. Each one pushes your crit chance higher, then scale the multipliers that turn those crits into devastating hits, or even reduce the cost and increase the efficiency of your casting. From there, the path continues into the larger crit clusters, like the potent incantation, efficiency killing, and the strip defenses, before reaching the true strike and for the juggler. This synergizes perfectly with the Spark's rapid fire playstyle, by ensuring that not only you can crit all the time, but also that those crits will shred through the enemy defenses. Then the mental alacrity and the electric amplification are picked up along the way by boosting the cast speed and the lightning damage. A key aspect of the tree is the blood magic keystone. By converting all mana cast into life, you will eliminate the need for the mana entirely. Instead of every cast draining the life directly, the passive tree will balance that with the large investments into the maximum life and regeneration. The padding also secures plenty of the raw life, percentage increase and regeneration, making it possible to sustain the spark spam infinitely as long as you have a strong flask and recovery. Then projectile speed and duration scaling also play an important role, because spark is at its strongest when projectiles travel further and last longer. Then next up we've come to the Ascendancy, and we lean fully into the Blood Mage archetype. The first notable that you take is the Sanguimancy, which forms the backbone of the build. This node ties your offensive power directly to your life pool, and ensures that casting is fueled by the blood magic rather than the mana. In practice, this feels incredibly liberating. You no longer need to worry about the mana flask or regeneration, and instead every cast feeds into your sustain loop. Next, you grab Vitality and the Siphon, which strengthens your survivability by providing the life recovery while you cast. This is the mechanic that makes the Blood Mage playstyle feel so smooth. Even though every cast will cost life, you're recovering life at the same time by balancing Expenditure and regeneration in a constant flow. Then third Ascendancy is the Southern the Flesh, that adds offensive layering by amplifying your crits and piercing through the enemy defenses. It synergizes perfectly with the Spark Rapid Crit playstyle, by turning every lightning bolt into a devastating hit that ignores resistances and armor. And finally, the Gore Spike is taken to cap off the build, and ensures that your offensive scaling is high as possible. Next up is the Atlas passive tree, which is where you shape your endgame farming strategy. This build thrives when you focus on consistency and density. In the 0.3 update, the central part of the tree gives access to some incredibly strong notables for the essences, harvest, the strong boxes and delirium. You'll invest heavily into the middle and the lower sections, where the harvest and essence will provide reliable crafting opportunities, and even guaranteed encounters. On the right side, you will path towards the strong boxes and the Legion expeditions, for more monsters and the loot explosions. And then on top, you'll invest into the bossing nodes, that improve the Conqueror, Maven and the Elder encounters. The idea here is simple, not to spread too thin, so instead you're clustering around key synergies. For example, the strong boxes plus the essence will guarantee a consistent value, while harvest offers a deterministic crafting options. Together, these systems will steadily generate profit without relying too much on RNG. Then next up we have the gear, and the setup for the Spark Blood Mage build will emphasize for both the offensive scaling and the sustain, which is needed to survive when you're losing constantly life. The weapon of our choice is a wand, as they will naturally boost spell casting and can roll critical strike chance for the spells, global crit multipliers and even the cast speed. Ideally, you want a wand with a very high base spell crit chance, plus the mods that increase multipliers and the spell damage. The cast speed is also very crucial, as it multiplies the effectiveness of the spark by letting you fill the screen faster. Then your offhand can be either by a shield or a second wand. If you want to go with a shield, then prioritize life resistances and the spell crit bonuses. A high-end rare shield with these stats will provide the best mix of offense and defenses. Then for your armor pieces, like the helmet, chest, gloves and the boots, you want maximum life and resistance first, and then look for the spell damage, lightning damage or the cast speed as a secondary bonus. Because this is a Blood Mage build, so any gear that provides life regeneration or the life gain on a cast is especially valuable, as it directly offsets the cost of your casting. Then the jewelry is where you push the build's damage ceiling to the roof. Amulets, rings and the belts can all roll global critical strike multipliers. The amulet slot is particularly important, because this is where you equip the Chore of the Storm, which synergizes perfectly with our crit scaling, and adds a consistent rain of lightning bolts as you cast. Rings can fill in resistances while also offering a crit and lightning damage. Then the belt should reinforce survivability, ideally with a heavy life roll and a flask modifiers that make your sustain loop even smoother. And now finally, let's see how to actually play this build. In practice, it feels like unleashing a thunderstorm every time you hit your cast key. Your default mode is to spam the spark continuously, by filling the screen with projectiles that pierce and bounce endlessly. With the prolonged duration and the pierce, sparks will zip around the battlefield longer than you've cast them, by ensuring that every enemy is eventually struck. And because you're crit capped, each hit is devastating. And with the cast on crit setups, every crit also triggers additional spells like Arc that multiply multiplies your damage even further. Then for general mapping, the flow is simple. You enter a pack, then drop the Orb of Storms and then start casting sparks. Orbs will keep you buffed rolling, while the sparks clears everything, and then the Sigil Power can be dropped for the tougher rares or the clusters. Then Firestorm and the Frost Bomb are used for the supplemental tools, either way for the weak bosses with resistances, or to cover divide areas in additional AoE damage. Most of the time you don't even need them, as the spark alone is more than enough to delete entire screens. And then against bosses, the rotation is a bit more different, but it's still straightforward. So this time you want to drop the Sigil of the Power first, then apply the Frost Bomb for exposure, and then channel Spark, while the Orb of Storms will keep the Arcane Surge active. Overall, this combination of the curses, debuffs, and the crit scaling sparks will all melt bosses in split seconds.